So now that we got a plan, it's of course time to implement it and to write the code we need. And here I would like to get started by setting up the routes and the pages we need for this application. I then want to continue building all the core components we need for now. And then I want to slowly, step by step, add in the data and the functionality we need. So therefore, first of all, I'll install 2 extra packages in a new project, which you again, by the way, find attached. You find this basic project setup, which has just Vue and nothing else attached to this lecture. But in this project setup, I'll now npm install with -- save. I'll npm install Vue-router and Vuex, these 2 packages, because we're going to use both throughout this module. Now this will download and install these 2 packages into this project, and once this is done, we can use both, but as I said, I'll start with routing. Now for this here, next to main.js, I'll add a router.js file, because I want to store all my routes and my routing logic in there to keep main.js lean, and therefore, as so often, I'll first of all import create router from Vue router here in the router.js file, and then create the router by calling create router. And then we will export this router so that we can use it in other files, namely in the main.js file as well. Now you learned how to configure the router. You simply pass an object to create router, and here we then add our routes. Now you might remember that besides the routes, we also need to set this history property here. And there we import another function from Vue router, and that's the create web history function. And we call this function here, and the value provided by calling that function is then set as a value for this history property here. With that, we can add our routes array here for the routes property, and in there set up all the routes we want. And here we made a plan, right? We thought about a couple of routes which we will need. So I'm going to add those routes here. And this was a /coaches route, which should load our coaches component later. We don't have that component yet, so for the moment I'll set this to null, but later we will point at the coaches component here. Besides that, we also wanted a coaches/ID route, where the dynamic coach ID is part of the path, and then we load the details page for different coaches. So that was another route we wanted here. We also wanted another path here to register as a coach, so to sign up as a coach. That is something we'll need. And we'll need a route where we can also contact a coach. And now that could be /contact, but I would say actually we want to contact a specific coach identified by ID. So maybe that's something where we can use a nested route even. So we could add children here to coaches/ID, and in there register a nested route where we have contact after coaches/ID. So that would be loaded with /coaches, then some coach ID /contact. That's how this route and this component should be loaded later, so that we reach the contact page with a form for a very specific coach. So therefore we won't have contact down there, but we will definitely need a requests route here where we can view all the requests we might have received. So all the messages sent through that contact form. And that's almost it. There's just one more route which I'll add here, and that is a catch-all route, a not found route for when the user adds or enters something invalid as a path, then I want to show a not found page. And you might remember from the routing section how that worked. You need a dynamic segment here in the end with any text of your choice, but then important, this bracket syntax at the end, where you in the end have a regular expression just saying that no matter what was entered here, you want to handle it with this route. And actually, now that I think about it, there's one more route which we'll need. Since we have no slash route here. We just have slash coaches, slash register. We're not doing anything if the user reaches just slash nothing, which will be the case though if just our domain is entered. And therefore, if just our domain slash nothing is entered, I want to redirect to slash coaches here. So that's the route setup I want to work with for this module, for this project. Now we need to build those pages, those components that should be loaded for the different routes. Now, as for everything else in this module, definitely also try such things on your own. Maybe don't continue with the next video right away. Instead, try building these page components for these different pages and wire them up to the routes. You can try building the entire project as a challenge as well. It's up to you how much you want to progress together with me and how much you want to try on your own. Starting in the next lecture, I will add those page components though.